Well, and the first thing Jennifer says is, right, she gave up her son for the Darkhold, basically. Well, he immediately says, like, that can't be true, right? Which is like, kind of like a wild, just like...
A little defensive.
Knee-jerk. I mean, he obviously idolizes Agatha. He's researched her. He helped get her out of the heck. But he's very defensive, and it's like he wants to believe Agatha is better. Do you think in this moment he's thinking, oh, am I her son? Or is that not even, like, registering in his brain? This is the after show for episode 3, through many miles of tricks and trials. And what does this team know? And is Sharon Davis actually dead? And why is Agatha acting so weird all the time? We'll get into that and more. I'm Brandon Barrick, and joining me today, after all this time of waiting and theorizing, Marvel finally said the word he's been waiting to hear for them to say all this time: frankincense.
Yes.
It's Erik Voss.
Yes!
Frankincense.
They've said myrrh.
They've said gold.
They said gold. Now we're in the season of frankincense.
That's right. We're on our way. We're on the witch's road to Bethlehem. We're going to make it in time. Also joining us today, she buys all her purses from Talbot's. It's Jessica Clemons.
More like Temu. I don't shop on Temu, but I do buy my bags at like Goodwill.
That's nice. Have
Except
you ever
for-
been in a Talbot's?
No, I don't even know what it is.
It's no Chico's, I'll tell you that much.
What the fuck does that mean?
They're old lady stores.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
okay.
I've gone to Burlington Coat Factory though.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Also joining us today, he's always going analog and doing witchcraft by hand. It's Zach Huddleston.
Alewife Revenge sounds like me the morning after a couple IPAs.
That's right. Because you're on the crapper all day.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just bad behavior. We've also got Evan in the producer box today, taking your questions live. We'll have a specific Q&A section towards the end. But if you're watching along and you got burning questions, just keep them coming in the chat. We'll collect them. We'll get to them later. And don't forget to check out nerdriot.shop for fun Agatha-inspired merch. Buying some merch is the best way to support all three channels in the new Rockstars network. Check it out today. We've also got tons of other merch on there. You can even get some Breakroom merch.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
I propped up. I was like, oh.
Yeah, she was ready.
For Evan, I
Jessica
ride.
was ready.
I ride at dawn for
We
Evan.
ride for Evan. Evan! And before we get into anything, even though we've gotten into something, it's finally here! Mephisto mentioned in the MCU.
Yes.
How are we all feeling about it? Does it feel like it was worth it, all this?
I-
What did it cost?
I know in your breakdown of the episode, Eric, you mentioned that it's like highly likely this is a one-off, just like a little wink to the audience and to specific YouTubers and fans, or it's a little seed planted for something to come.
This is how Mephisto has broken our brains, right? It's like any mention of the thing, even if it's supposed to be like an inoculation, a microdose of it just to get you to shut up about it, it might be viewed as a clue. I think it's just a one and done thing. I think it's a show that's set in the world of WandaVision and the world of witchcraft and sorcery. So it's kind of like the arguments we were making during WandaVision is like, this is a world where Mephisto would show up.
Sure.
He's tied to all these witch characters. But now I think they're acknowledging that. I think they're showing that they hear the fans and they respect us and they want us to do this theorizing. But at the end of the day, I think if you're going to be revealing Mephisto on this show, A, you don't need him in this story, and B, this isn't how you would do it. I think this is a red herring or a red alewife, you might say.
Okay.
I think this is just to get us going, and they're going to have other more relevant characters to the story here, even though arguably Mephisto is more relevant to this story than like what WandaVision ultimately was.
Sure.
I think what's going to be crazy is if they just like establish Mephisto to be like a character who shows up on this show. Like, it's weirdly, there's room in the title card sequence for like another name. It's just like, it's kind of hard to know where to go from here. I feel like I'm vindicated. I'm good. I don't need Mephisto to actually show up on the show.
Can I add two little things to that? So Disney sends out screeners sometimes for some of their Disney Plus shows, their Marvel and Star Wars shows that we get. They sent out 4 episodes of this show, right? Like, often they choose the volume of episodes based on maybe something big that happens in the following week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a chance episode 5 could be a reveal of some kind?
Oh, I mean, Yeah, that's a really good point. Generally, that's what they did with Acolyte, right? They had like the crazy big lightsaber fight episode where a lot of characters died. That was just on the event horizon threshold of screeners. Yeah, there might be something here, right? Because we know we're going down the Witch's Road. We're gonna have a pretty crazy try. I kind of feel like episode 5 might be the one where it's like they're doing the Ouija board, like sleepover.
Right. Yeah, that one. I mean, we have 9 episodes total. They like to do it, I feel like, somewhere in that, 3 out of 4 range, right? When you're getting in the final 25% of the series. They have the flashback episode where they explain things.
Yes.
And I believe, like, Agatha's mom was cast in this show, so I think we'll get a flashback to Salem, or, like, the events that were going on there. Probably an explanation more of, like, the Salem 7 and what their motivation is.
Cool.
But if they want to have Mephisto roll in and say hello, that could happen, right?
Close
Like,
up magic.
Well, and so just to caveat what I said, we have not seen episode 4. We will only be talking about episode 3. That's as far as any of us have watched. So don't worry about any future episode spoilers or anything like that.
Yeah, we won't get into Tony Stark showing back up.
What?
Yeah. I wonder if episode 5 might be like them finally revealing that Joe Locke is what he is, whatever.
He is
We
what he
assume
is.
that he's Billy Kaplan, right? Because just based off of the closed captioning and all the other clues, like maybe that's when they reveal that, or they just reveal something about Rio Vidal, or they reveal something about like what Agatha actually did. Maybe that's the flashback episode to Salem, like you said. That makes sense.
Do you think, just while we're talking Mephisto, is there going to be a big bad in this show, or is the big bad like female friendship, or like?
That's the big bad? I think that's the big hero.
No, that's I hear what you're saying. The thing that has to be overcome is like,
is Agatha defeating herself, or is she defeating a nefarious antagonist that is in her way? Like, Rio Vidal doesn't seem like she's trying to hurt Agatha. If anything, she's just angry and wants to confront her, but they seem to have something deeper than that. The Salem 7 feel like a MacGuffin in a weird way,
right.
of like they are pushing her, and they're being driven by
they're the physicalization of her past, and she's trying to overcome her past as not always being a great person or whatever, right?
I think you guys are right. I don't think there's a villain behind the shadows or anything.
I don't know. Could be Wenwu. We'll see.
Stop mentioning people from the MCU that it could be, and then watch them show up.
It could be Obadiah Stane. God dang. Just moved
He's
to
just
New
on
Jersey. He was under the witness protection program. Because Tony Stark tried to kill him. Did you see that? Battle of Los Angeles. How soon we forget. Okay, let's get into a little recap of this episode, and we'll get into more of our questions. Jessica, I'd be honored if you'd start this recap.
Okay. Okay. Yes. 100%. I got it. I couldn't read immediately when it came up. Sorry. The coven is on the Witch's Road, and Sharon Hart is not happy about it. She starts this episode as I would. And neither is the coven when they realize that she isn't really a witch. They need all the help they can get because they're mostly powerless while facing the test of the road. They'll have to face their fears in the form of a trial. One trial for each skill, Agatha says. The group also names the spell Teen is under. He's had a sigil cast on him, a redaction spell that's hiding him from the from other witch folk. They're suspicious, but they set that aside so they can rescue Sharon before she's sucked into the ground. She does lose her bag, her Talbot's bag, and I mean, sure,
It's a shame. It's a good bag.
It's an ugly bag. I would be more sad if she lost that apron. That apron was very cute.
Still got the
They continue down the road and find themselves with a new wardrobe and a Big Little Lies-esque beach house.
This is so much fun. Inside, they find this letter inviting them to their first witch trial with a riddle on the back. And Sharon successfully solves it, wine. And if you really just look at the world properly, the answer to all riddles is wine. And whittles is wine.
Whittle wine.
I wonder
Just a whittle wine, please.
With a wine, please.
But Jennifer has this great moment where she pulls Teen aside and warns him, and she reveals and confirms that Agatha did trade her own child for the Book of the Damned, the Darkhold. She says no one knows what happened to this son, that he might be dead, he might be a demon, or he might be an agent of Mephisto. Sashir, you made my life. Thank you. So Teen, though, has this interesting reaction to it. We're going to talk about that, like the way Teen's ears kind of perk up when Mephisto gets named. Sharon just downs any drop of wine that's in front of her, and that sets off a timer. The group, with the exception of Teen and Agatha, follows suit. And of course, this wine is poisoned. It causes their faces to swell up into this interesting, beautiful Botox proportion. But
fillers, baby.
To each their own. Jennifer deduces that the poison is something called Alewife's Revenge, whose side effects include hallucinations and then death. When Teen threatens to drink the wine, Agatha gives in now and downs the glass. Sharon has the first hallucination. Really weird moment. She says, Wanda, let him breathe.
Ooh,
and then we're assuming her husband, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Davis. And then she passes out. Yo.
And we don't see, also, that's the only hallucination we as the audience are not privy to.
Right.
It's true, we don't see her fear.
That's true. And then I think Deborah Jo Rupp said you got to keep watching episodes because I think we're going to see.
We also
what
don't see
happened
the
with her.
teens.
Well, he didn't drink any, so he
Oh, that is
didn't
true. He
have
didn't get to
one.
drink any.
Yeah.
Do you think Sharon saw female friendship, the biggest enemy of all? To be clear,
We can't let them be friends.
Callback.
We can't let them be friends.
They were passing the Bechdel test. How dare
The
they?
number one threat facing America today is women becoming friends.
Bottoms, get that out of here.
Women talking? No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Let's go, girls. Ba, 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 da, da. Zach's turn.
Talking is such
The
a sad movie.
coven proceeds to collect ingredients for an antidote, and those hallucinations kick in,
Yeah, baby.
Wah, 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 wah. Lila,
Sorry, Lilia, my bad.
Lilia, okay, yes, yeah. No, wait, there was a little talking otter was on the show.
Lila.
That's it.
Lilia spouts try to save Agatha and sees women in old-fashioned kind of Romeo and Juliet-esque clothing in a decrepit house. Alice sees her mom, Lorna Wu, who's scared of something that will kill her and is unable to protect Alice from it. Hence getting a tattoo for your 13-year-old daughter. Damn.
That's metal as hell.
Especially in the 80s or 90s or whenever it would have happened. Like, ooh.
Also, like, normally it'd be like, put it on the shoulder somewhere you can cover
I
your
know.
shirt. No, that's tough.
It can protect you from your lower back. Why does it need to be like lower
It's going to
arm?
protect you from getting a day job. You know what I'm talking
Yo.
about? Keep me out of the workforce.
Jennifer is drowned by a man that looks like a doctor who calls her an inconvenient woman. So it's clearly a climate change metaphor. Definitely frazzled. They reunite to combine their ingredients just in time for the house to start flooding. Can I just give a brief
Here we go.
note here on a sous vide?
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
I
give
own
it
a
to
sous
us,
vide.
give it to
I
us.
cook its delicious way to make food. It does not get things to a boiling temperature.
Yeah, I mean,
It warms water to like 200 degrees. The whole point of a sous vide is you cook something at a lower temperature beneath boiling for a long period of time. So like maybe they just needed the water in this thing to be hot, but it would not get it to boiling.
Yeah, you want it to get to the temperature the meat will be.
can't
So like
drink a boiling
150
potion.
degrees Fahrenheit, 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Boiling is 212 Fahrenheit. And you wouldn't want to cook meat at that point. You'd boil it and kill it.
It's the word boiling is just for pastiche. You know what I mean?
Pastiche.
It's just
All right,
to sound
okay.
cool.
Fair.
Double boil in trouble.
I did-
not
I-
double simmer in
Also,
trouble.
what if the spell also helped it boil quicker?
Oh, fair
It was
play.
just you just
Yeah,
needed to get
That's
it
true.
heated up.
Maybe the pH had been changed enough via all the ingredients.
I don't like how much women things you're bringing out of your mouth today.
Yeah.
pH balance
We
for
don't-
which, but
we don't
it's strong
like
enough
it.
for me.
We don't like it. Well, they do sous vide the antidote despite Zach's protestations. As teen stirs, Agatha's hallucination finally kicks in, hearing a baby crying in a truly chilling sequence for a Marvel show. This was pretty creepy and sad. Quite a tour de force of acting from Catherine
Yeah,
Hahn,
literally.
who's doing
Yeah.
incredible handwork in this show. The hair handwork this episode especially was
Lots of
inspired. She looks into the baby crib, and it's no baby. It's the Darkhold.
I was so pleased to see a Darkhold and not dead baby.
They are
Or
not going
something
to put
else.
That was
I know they
actually
wouldn't,
fair.
but there was a brief moment where I was scared we were
Yeah.
going to see something
To
gory
be
or
fair,
bad.
and to be fair, the Sharon corpse was like, oh.
Yeah,
I
I
was
was like,
kinda-
oh. I was like, her eyes are
What if-
very blue and dead.
What if it was the Beetlejuice baby? And it was like, hey,
Stop.
Oh,
Stop.
God.
Stop. I
Beetle
almost spit
baby?
up.
No way.
what if it was the baby from Alien Romulus? And he was like looking for a little help.
Yeah. Or what if it was just empty? That'd be terrifying for me. Just like the opening shot of The Witch, Robert
Yeah.
Eggers' The Witch, and just
Yeah.
an absent baby to dads is equally terrifying.
I would be
shit,
terrified
where did I leave it?
to come downstairs and find a baby. That would be my nightmare.
Whose baby is this?
You started it. You just left the book down there.
I'd be like,
now it's a baby.
Book, please. Like a swapperoonie. Well, Agatha snaps out of it, and the coven add their hair to the potion, and with a little bit of blood from the teen, always from the palm of the hand, awful, and uniting in their intentions, the antidote brews successfully. They take little adorable shots, but they forgot about Mrs. Hart, Mrs. Davis, Evan. She's Mrs. Davis. And just as they can feed her a little bit of potion, the water comes pouring into the house, very practically. We love to see it. They escape through the kitchen oven and come splash mountaining / Tiana's Bayou adventuring back into the Witch's Road.
It's Tiana's Bayou.
Wait, do either of these
don't know
rides
this
get you out of the flume? So you're just like
I
on
wish.
your back?
Yeah. They've ditched the boats because they're too expensive.
Oh my god.
Wasn't that insane? Or maybe it was just me reading too much into it. When I watched it, I was like, I don't like the symbolism of all these women have to climb through an oven to get out of here. I was like, this is so sad.
Well, Lilia called it out. She was like, my friend died this way. They got my good friend.
Wait, that was Sylvia
Woods.
Plath, or?
Yeah.
I assume it's Sylvia Plath.
That's how they got her. But unfortunately, our good friend Sharon Davis didn't make it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got her.
They got her.
The real big bad, depression.
Yeah. It's tough. As the coven stands over Mrs. Davis's body, Agatha asks, "Who's Sharon?"
It's a
got all
great
about
final
it.
line.
That's
Nice
a great
stinger.
final line.
I also love when she gets up off the water slide and just like pushes everyone aside. It's just
Yeah.
great. Well, before we get into all our mysteries from this episode, any favorite moments anyone would like to highlight? I personally loved that dark hold sequence and the practicality of like just the lights changing on set physically, and that moment where she's like, as an actor, Catherine Hahn has to be like breaking down and crying, and then they go like, Agatha, get the hell over here. And she's like, oh, what? I'm fine. Great. Just like so good and so creepy. Yeah. All those creepy hallucinations really got me. They were good. They were good. What about you, Jess? You got a favorite moment?
I'm gonna fight. Sorry, I'm now
thinking
ready.
about the moment.
I was
Thinking
when you were
about the
talking, I was like, if they come in here, I'm gonna hide.
yeah.
I'm gonna hide under this
Yeah,
desk.
yeah.
No, I really liked. I liked all around it being like a Jennifer Kale episode. I think they're all gonna equally share the rewards. Like the teen said at the beginning, the coven shares burdens and blessings alike. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a win for all of us, but there's going to be specific trials that are going to test one of the witches more than the others. And this being all around a Jennifer Kale episode was really fun because it's like, oh, the trial also probably made the house in her image, in her body and likeness. And then there's just so much secrets in it with like the wine being a potion in itself, because to create wine is like fermentation. It takes time. It takes herbs and fruits. And then also like, oh, sea salt water is coming in and breaking into the house, and salt is used as protection for like spells. And I was like, I think all of this is just embodying Jennifer Kale. And it takes a little bit of looking at more of the stuff in the room to recognize that it might just be her own like body.
That's really cool.
Because she does say like, oh, I look like one of my
Yeah, I look like one of my
customers, and that's her biggest fear, right? Becoming this fake plastic thing with bad product. What about you? You had a favorite moment?
I agree with both of those. I really like the practical transitions were really fun. There was some shots taken directly from like Poltergeist or The Sixth Sense that they like created their versions of. I just think Deborah Jo Rupp's performance throughout this episode was so delightful. And like, you know, I think my favorite thing about these shows, these Marvel shows, is when they just cast someone who normally would not exist in the MCU and maybe doesn't understand the comic lore and doesn't need to, but just like understands the part as it is on the page and just like has a blast. And I think she did that with Sharon. Pour one out for Sharon.
Pour one out for my girl.
Sharon. Is her name Sharon? I can't.
Sharon.
Maybe,
I
yeah,
don't know,
maybe, yeah. Drink it,
Sharon?
Zamboni
Who's
it. I genuinely was like trying to figure out how she can be the star, but also the supporting cast at the same time, and be dead the entire episode. Yeah. I was like, everything kind of revolved. It was like, oh, we need to bring her back. Like a lot of the stuff kept coming back to Jennifer Jo Rupp's character.
Well, and we know in this show that like we're gonna see. We've already seen dead people, right? Lorna Wu and whatever, right? So like maybe there'll be flashbacks. We might see things from her perspective, whatever she saw in her. I was gonna say her, and this show is full of comedic heavyweight actors. You know what I mean? Like people that are very talented. But man, she had like 5 or 6 lines, like "bury me in that kitchen," and just like whatever.
Bury
When they
me in
were
that kitchen.
the way, I mean, you know, she's got 1,000 episodes of comedic television under her belt, right? Like just and just to see those chops on display with all of those line deliveries was just wonderful.
Yeah, I wonder if when she like lands on a clear studio set, she's like, "Oh, I can.
I'm home.
Let's go do
Let's
this.
go.
Which camera? Which camera?" She just immediately
Put her
pulls
on the
it.
volume, she'd freeze up. She wouldn't know what to do. Well, before we get to more of our questions, we want to thank our sponsors today. And today's episode of The Breakroom is sponsored by Surfshark. Look, it's 2024. Wake up. Wake up. If you're on the internet and you're not using a VPN, what are you doing? You're literally getting less internet than the rest of us, okay? Streaming sites censor content depending on what country you're in, but Surfshark lets you route your traffic through a server in a different country so you can watch everything everywhere all at once. For us, that's kind of a no-brainer because we watch a lot of things. You get it? Plus, Surfshark also lets you get the best prices on things like flights and rental cars using the same technique. You'd be shocked, I say, at how much money you can save by shopping from Belgium instead of the U.S.
Damn.
They're killing us on online shopping. Surfshark VPN is like pants for the internet. All your private stuff always stays private, so you can roam free without worrying about anybody seeing your data that you don't want them to see. Surfshark, man, that's tough. Surfshark also has other products like the ad-free Surfshark search engine.
Who did this to Brandon? I'm gonna find them and I'm gonna find them myself.
What's happening here?
That's upsetting, Bird.
Surfshark also sells other products by the seashore, like the ad-free Surfshark search engine or Surfshark antivirus that can provide 24/7 protection for all your Surfshark devices. Secure your privacy with Surfshark. Click the link in the description below and enter code BREAKROOM for an extra 4 months free.
Nice.
An extra 4 months? That can't be true.
Yeah,
that can't be true.
That's a good deal.
Okay, folks, we have so many questions we want to get to. So let's dive into the teen a little bit here. He had an interesting reaction to Jennifer's comment about Agatha. Let's take a quick look at that clip.
Did you know she traded her own child for the Book of the Damned?
Snitch.
How could you?
She's
Say
so,
what?
she's so
This is
Regina
catty.
George coded. It's insane.
I doubt she'd even recognize her own son if he showed up at her doorstep.
Huh?
Found it.
Bitch.
What's it? Does he have like a little satchel?
It's his
from his
book.
belt?
It's his like a
notebook.
moleskin
He
notebook
wrote
where he
down
writes his
aleways.
spells.
How do
And
you
it
spell
and it
aleways?
attaches to his belt?
Yeah, it's like something that the costume designer Daniel designed, and all versions of Joe Locke's costume has a strap that goes around his leg, kind of like a knife that you'd have. But I think that says something.
holster?
A
Yeah,
holster.
that's his weapon,
It's his
is
weapon.
his-
yeah,
is his
yeah,
knowledge,
yeah.
yeah.
I think it's such a cool feature.
The pen is mightier, they say. Yeah, could this also be like the house? They've talked about how like the road like influences the witches, changes their clothing, changes the setting. Is the house, because they're in like a Big Little Lies scenario, making her be gossipy here? Like, what is Jennifer's
No, I think
intention by
she's-
pulling him aside and saying this?
She's always been gossipy. Like as soon as she showed up, I
She
talked
did
about
say
this.
Lilia needed a chemical peel.
Yeah, and she's just so catty, but not like sassy. It's like she thinks. To be fair, when Lilia did meet her, she was like, "Oh, High Priestess," which in a coven is like the highest coveted. That's your queen. That's like the girl that facilitates all of the rituals, does everything. She's the leader. So it makes sense why she has that energy, but she still has that energy without her powers. So I was like, I don't
Maybe
think
a
it's
little
the house.
guarded too, right? Being
Yeah.
defensive.
But I do think the Big Little Lies part is the part that's like, oh, on the Witch's Road, you're not living in like a hocus pocus world. No, you live in Big Little Lies because this is your energy that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the Big Little Lies is like how it's like a cast of women, but you know, 2 will kind of break over here and have a conversation
Right.
over here, and then 3 will be over here over a glass of wine. And I just love the pace and dynamic of this episode for that reason. Like they really do nail like the beats and the tone of these genres that they go into. I think it would have been interesting because like Big Little Lies is not confined to one house. And I get that they have to, but Big Little Lies is kind of fun because they like jump around to different mansions, and there's like shots of just like one of them running along the beach, and you realize it's like a dream or something like that. But I think like just the tone of it and just that they were drinking wine was fun. But in this case, teen, yeah, I think Jennifer Cale in episode 2 was like, hey, is this another child sacrifice? I think she's been trying to get this information and say the quiet part out loud in that regard for a while.
Obviously, the show wants us to believe in this moment that Joe Locke's, the teen, could be Agatha's character,
missing
right?
son.
You don't say, she wouldn't recognize him if he showed up at her door, right? And it's
Right.
like, well, guess who showed up at her door, right? Teen, basically.
Well, and the
Yeah.
first thing Jennifer says is right. She gave up her son for the Darkhold, basically. And
Which he doesn't answer.
Well, he immediately says like that can't be true, right? Which is like, kind of like a wild, just like
A little defensive.
knee jerk. I mean, he obviously idolizes Agatha. He's researched her. He helped get her out of the hex. He was part of that, right? He said that incantation to help her break out. I don't know how much was real, how much was him helping her break out of the hex, right? That Wanda had left behind. But he's very defensive, and it's like he wants to believe Agatha is better, but doesn't. Do you think in this moment he's thinking, "Oh, am I her son?" Or is that not even like registering in his brain?
I think he knows who he is, and that's why he's defensive. But I think he still might have some questions about how the witchcraft started with him. Like he had that moment after this with Alice, where he said it started 3 years ago for me when I was 13, or started when I was 13, right? And I think and the way he says it is like he's kind of aware that there was something that happened, and now I'm thinking like Nicholas Scratch might have been invited in. That's like, I think there must be some link. If there's not an actual link, Agatha definitely sees Nicholas Scratch in him, but I think it's the Nicholas Scratch of it all has to tie in with the sigil.
Let's talk about that sigil too, because like, could this be a situation where whoever the teen was, as a normal kid, not related to Agatha at all, just a kid growing up in Westview or Eastview, he's doing a little magic. He's interested in magic. He's doing some magic on his own one day, and like you said, kind of invites Nicholas Scratch in, or like he almost is messing around with a power he doesn't understand, and Nicholas Scratch takes over his body and is now like possessing him and trying to get back to Agatha, but as like a lost soul, doesn't know things himself.
A baby soul.
I'm just a baby soul. I don't know how to use the bathroom yet. That's what babies do. He's like taking over the team, right? And maybe the sigil is a part of that.
Yeah, that's just hard because it seems like there's so many moments where it's a genuine excited teenager.
Yeah.
And I don't think that like Nicholas Scratch would just like dial it back. I think like Nicholas Scratch is somewhere helping him, and that's not manifested yet in him, and it's starting to now in these little moments, like the darkness is taking over. And I don't know if it was like teen experimenting with witchcraft or like there was some car accident. There was a near death in Westview 2013 or 2023, right after the events of WandaVision, like 3 weeks after the events of WandaVision, that we don't really know what that's all about. And teen could be involved with that, and then maybe like his near death, like his mother like was into witchcraft through her fandom of Lorna Wu, and just sang that Lorna Wu hit, and that Ballad of the Witch's Road is what like summoned just the spiritual essence of Nicholas Scratch to find a child who maybe just was near death the moment he was killed. But would you put a 13-year-old in a baby crib? I don't know. I think that was metaphorical.
It makes me think, you mentioned Sixth Sense. There were some shots in this episode that looked like Sixth Sense. A different M. Night movie, Signs, right? There's a car crash scene in Signs that they flash back to, right? Is that Signs where the wife,
mom, gets
gets
a tree,
behind
pet
the
and like
cemetery.
you could see, he keeps mentioning the parents without ever naming them,
They're
or like we don't
sleeping.
see them, or they're sleeping, whatever, right? He's referenced both his father and his mother in different episodes. That maybe like we see a scene, that car wreck, right? Young Joe Locke survives. Maybe the parents are dying, but as the mom is perishing, she sings down, 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 whatever, right? Something like that. Okay.
It just plays on the radio.
Just contribute some audience comments here. Tasha on YouTube. Thank you so much for the super chat. Saying, I think Teen Sigil came from Rio the same way as Agatha put Pietro under a spell. And Ryan Painter also asking, do you think the sigil like blocks anybody from saying his name? So if anyone says his name to the witches, they can't hear it.
Yeah,
right?
like if he were to say it to a random bystander, then the bystander tried to tell the witches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't you think then the sigil would probably appear on the bystander?
Yeah, right. It's very
Probably.
interesting.
Okay.
And conveniently, Sharon wasn't there for that part of the thing. She had already walked off the road. So there was
it
good
said
point.
it while Sharon was
If
there,
she- if
which
we
she
wanna-
would have heard it.
yes, if we want to believe that she's not witchy at all, right?
It's crazy. Sharon's dead, and she'll never be getting justice, or the teen will never get justice for getting hit by a car by her.
Oh
I just
my
thought about
God.
that. I just remembered that. Sorry, it just hit me.
He can sue the insurance company.
Oh, he could, she's State
He'll
Farm.
get
State
paid.
Farm.
Oh,
Also,
he'll get
yeah,
paid.
boy, I mean, if he was involved in a car accident that may or may not have killed his parents, and then he got hit by a car again, I mean, stay away from cars, kid.
Well,
Watch Pet Cemetery.
Miss
It
Hart-
happens.
Don't watch
Comes out
Cars.
nowhere.
Watch Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, good thing this is a show built on pedestrianship, right? They're walking down this road.
Yeah.
Nobody's driving down this road.
It should be the witch's sidewalk, I think, for safety purposes. Stay out of the road, kids.
It's gonna be a Witches Road park ranger who rolls up
Yeah.
on that road.
Also, throw in the chat. How old were you the first time you had wine? What?
Yeah, when did your
I
parents let
was
you have a little sip?
solidly 21. What are you talking about?
Any alcohol or wine specifically?
Yo,
I when I was like young, I ran around the house really quick, grabbed my mom's like cup and drank it once,
Yeah.
but like actively was given a bottle. 21.
What about communion wine? Does that count?
Yeah.
If
We
you're
use-
Catholic,
No,
it's
'cause that's the
not
body of
wine,
Christ.
It's the blood of Christ.
we use grape juice.
Buddy of Christ.
Well, technically, you didn't drink wine, right? Because the second it goes in your mouth, it transforms into the blood.
Transubstantiation,
Oh my God.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was like 14 because it was just like Christmas time and everyone's just kind of drunk, and I was like, I want to try it, and then they handed it to me, and I'm like, it burns.
I'm like a Bene Gesserit. I can drink as much wine as I want, and I transform it into water in my body.
Is that a thing?
No,
Bene Gesserit witches do?
They can turn poison
Bene
into
Gesserit.
nothing. They
Oh,
can,
whoa.
they can
Hey,
transmute poison.
I will not have that kind of wine slander on this show, okay? That ain't poison. It's delicious.
Whoa. Tell that to your
Magically
liver.
People also asking questions in line with our next question about how Agatha's behaving this episode. Nate616 on YouTube, thank you for the super chat, saying, what is Agatha's end game? What will she do if she gets her powers back? Like, how is she playing this? Also, it's their 25th birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Nate.
Oh my
Have a
God.
wine, or
And-
don't.
Yeah, and Sarah Hatch Jordan asking and others asking the important question, like, has Agatha really been down the road before, right?
Yeah,
like,
her behavior is so odd.
I would love the reveal that she's never been actually down the road.
Right.
She's just lying and everyone believed her. I want that reveal so bad because I feel like there's gonna be a part, like it's clear that she's and they talked about, Jack Schaefer talked about it, and I think in the Empire interview, how they're like, oh, it's going to have a lot of heart, it's going to have a lot of this, and I'm like, I'm not seeing any of that from Agatha yet, and we're on episode 3. I think she's going to keep cheating and scheming until eventually they're going to get tired of it and confront her about it, and then that's when they reveal, like, oh, I actually never walked the Witch's Road before, and I'm going to love it.
That's interesting because if it is, she either walked the road to like get a lot of power or get the Darkhold itself, right? And if she didn't, if she cheated,
or sorry, Eric also speculated in the breakdown, maybe to get Nicholas Scratch back.
or maybe she tried to get him
and she
back
failed.
before.
Yeah.
Because like if everyone assumes she did the Witch's Road, but she really cheated and traded her son for the book instead of actually walking the road, but told everyone or made it seem like she'd walked the road before, that could be her big reveal, right? That she has no idea what's going on. Because this whole sequence in the house, right? At first, when the teen wants to drink, she's like, yeah, go ahead. But then later, when it's all poison and he goes to drink, she like reaches out and says, no, I'll do it. When he's like, I'm going to drink it if you're not going to drink it. She's like, no, I'll drink it. So if she knew it was poison, she wouldn't let him do it early on. And I think the road changes its trials for whoever's on it. So she knows something is up. That's why she doesn't want to drink the wine. But maybe she doesn't know exactly how this trial is manifesting itself. Right? You know, she tries to break the window, but that maybe doomed them by like making it weaker for the water to rush in.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling she has not walked the road before and she's just BSing out.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jess is right. I think that to me is the best explanation for why Agatha's so inconsistent in this episode. She's not acting like someone who's been down this road before. She's acting like someone who's like cheated. And I don't think she's like incompetent. I just think she took a shortcut.
Yeah.
And that's why the other witches don't respect her.
Yeah.
And she, surpassed her expertise in magic, didn't take the years to do it properly. She took a shortcut, and she's never been down this road, and she just wants to look like the expert. And that's why like Jennifer and Lily are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
We all have to finish this wine.
Is there a scenario which her mom and the other coven, the other original Salem people, Salemites, did the Witch's Road? I only offer this and question it because I'm like, I feel like the Salem 7 are the daughters allegedly of the Salemites that were all harvested by Agatha.
Hey, they blasted her first.
I'm just saying.
Blast me, bitches.
Blast me, bitches. That were all harvested by Agatha, and I'm
They
like,
tried to kill her.
But I'm like, your offsprings basically are like daughters and sisters of themselves. If you are like, if we're all like very close friends, so close to our coven, all our children would be friends. And all our children would become like our second tier coven. And that's why I'm like, oh, the Salemites coming after Agatha is probably a very big deal because that's like killing one of their sisters or going after someone that harmed their family. And I'm like, what if her mom and the Salemites went to the Witch's Road and she's just stealing her mom's story of the Witch's Road?
Oh,
And that's what she's been she's been regurgitating. That's why she doesn't actually know. But I love the idea that whoever said that it is her. She's lying because even when she's like, it didn't take this long before to open this door. I'm like, bitch, you didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't do it.
I think she just knows the lyrics.
Yeah, she just knows the lyrics.
And then I think anybody who knows the lyrics can kind of picture what that road looks like, and then as they're walking down it, the picture starts to fill in based on of like what your fears and your projections of it would be. But like she's never walked this road physically before.
Well,
I think
after
you're right.
Mrs. Hart almost gets sucked in, right? She's like, rule number 1, don't get off the road. And it's like, well, maybe you didn't know that.
You didn't know that until 2 seconds ago.
Right.
Really great. Well, last week we kind of discussed about the fact of maybe the door opened because the actual Salem 7 coven showed up while they were singing. So that was the actual coven that made the door open up. And I'm like, oh, maybe coming in contact with Agatha, who was the last member of their coven, that was the original 8, maybe, is what actually made that door open. And she's like, oh, yeah, it's because it took so long. Evan, sorry, continue.
No, you're good. Lots of people kind of vibing with this theory. And also, Rosario L on YouTube suggesting the same thing. Also saying she's faking it. Maybe Rio had walked the road. And Ashley61202 and Stinge on Twitch saying, do you think Rio was the one to sacrifice Nicholas? And that's why she asked Agatha in episode 1, do you remember why you hate me? And Agatha stole the Darkhold from her. Yeah, interesting how maybe that there's, this like kind of stealing of stories, manipulation of stories. I like that. There's a lot of, that's I think one of my favorite parts about the show personally, right? All these like mysteries that are so open-ended.
Yes. And like what the show is doing with, I guess, is it, which of the two ironies, dramatic irony or the other irony, right? Like the show is not telling us everything that all the characters know. Mm-hmm. Right? Like clearly like Agatha is not telling us even a tiny fraction of what she, the character, knows. They're kind of covering that up with a lot of witty repartee and like the other characters being much more upfront, right? Like Jennifer Kale and Lily and stuff like that are kind of like telling us most of what they know, though obviously they all know more about Agatha than we have been told thus far, right? Yeah. Jennifer Kale kind of spilled out some very important information in this episode, but you have to imagine those other witches also know more of Agatha's backstory than we've been privy to.
I have a question for all you guys, and for all of you listening. Is this much lack of exposition, a third of the way through a story, because it's a miniseries, this much lack of exposition, even if it's mystery building, is it good TV? Or, like, I think you need to have some mystery, but sometimes I feel like, God, I wish I just knew whether a character knows who they are or if they don't know who they are due to some witchcraft gaslighting part of their past from themselves. Like, I sometimes feel like because it's so mysterious and they're all speaking in code, sometimes I don't even know if Agatha knows what she knows. And it's just, if she's just reactionary to the moment. So there are times where I'm feeling a little frustrated and I wish that, like, a third of the way through the story, not everything and everyone in the show was such a mystery, and that we could just, like, because I feel like I know the most about Alice, like, based off of this episode. I know the most about what happened to her, and she's like the 5th most important character on the show. And everyone else is such a mystery. In other shows, it's like each episode, all the questions are answered, but on this show so far, it seems like just even more questions are introduced. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I think it's very. Unfortunately, that's Marvel coded. Marvel TV shows will do that. They're not gonna give the person even their name until the last episode. Yeah. But I think it is also like different for different people. If I wasn't doing breakdowns on the show, I wouldn't be thinking about it too hard. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm just watching this. But because our jobs entail us to like go deep in this and figure out what they're doing, it makes it a lot of hard and very annoying. But I know personally, if I was just watching this every day, I'd probably be like, no, this is fine. This is a mystery. I'm on board with it. I'm not too irritated with it. Disagree about the Alice. I do think we learned a lot about Alice. I think, which is what they did a lot of research in witchcraft and all this stuff. There's so much to Jennifer Kale. You just have to pay attention. There's so much to Jennifer Kale. The fact that, like, this is not a priest, it's a doctor in the 1920s. She is a potions expert. What was, like, a black woman doing potions in the 1920s with a doctor? They're not even allowed to study medicine.
And they reference her as a snake oil salesman at one point too, right?
So I'm like, she is literally a midwife. I'm like, maybe not even a midwife, but I'm like, this is someone that's very important to medicine, and this man is like, hey, they didn't even listen to women at that time for medicine, and who knows women's bodies more than women? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it was there, but but I will say that's kind of irritating because it's like we are used to reading so into these things that I'm like, I am looking at the blue on the walls. Why is water in every corner of this house? Sea salt. Like, I was just looking so deep into it, and I was like, water's so important because water's so important to potions, but also she could be a midwife. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, water breaking, the common refrain. Yeah, I think, like, I hear you, Eric, and I might lean a little bit your direction. I love the mysteries of this show, and I love that they're layered, and there's so many, like, none of the answers are too obvious, which I appreciate. You know, you watch enough like mystery shows, your British procedurals or whatever, and like often you can kind of pick out who the killer is in the first 15 minutes. And I don't feel confident in the answers to any of these questions we've been asking. I'd say the one little pick I have is that like I wish their motivations were a little bit clearer, and that those weren't a big part of the mysteries. Like we know, like we got to get to the end of the Witch's Road to get our power back. But like I wish I knew specifically for Agatha and Teen, why does that matter to you a little bit more? Yeah. Right? I kind of understand it for the other characters. They even do a good job of going down the line and saying, this is why you're going. But, like, she didn't say that for herself, other than the most broad, I want my power back.
Yeah, and I wish at one point we heard Agatha say, I want to get my powers back, and I'm willing to sacrifice all these other women to do it. Like, for that to be clear. Right now, we don't know if she's okay sacrificing the teen and these other women. It seems like she's also deceptive and maybe unsure of why she's here and what she needs. So it's just kind of like, these things are all just kind of left as subtext for now.
Yeah. I mean, to make a trite comparison, like Breaking Bad, they made you wait, spoilers, to the very end for Walter to admit that he knows what he's doing and he just wanted to be a drug kingpin. The whole time he's constantly gaslighting the audience about what his motivations are, along with his family. So that I feel that there. That's fine with me, but it does feel like most Marvel shows, would one episode on its own be a good episode of television? I don't know. I don't think so. But they're trying to tell a different type of story. And I think in a more traditional world where we had 22 episodes of this series, we'd meet each of these witches, and then we'd get to the road. But they kind of have to condense it all. And it's a lot of mystery. I do wish we knew more about these characters earlier, but
and maybe
we gotta get to it.
I'll change my tune after next week. Who knows, right? Like maybe I get a lot of the things that I'm craving in the very next episode, and then it's great.
But most shows, you can't turn into a random episode of Big Little Lies and be like, "That was a great episode of television."
Oh,
you
I
have
can.
no idea what's going on.
Oh, I can every episode.
The Meryl Streep
Streep
courtroom scene. Oh, pull it up on YouTube right now. Pause this show.
Season 1 of Big Little Lies, every episode was a masterpiece. But I'm thinking overall I'm really enjoying this ride. I like being suspended in mystery, obviously. It's part of our lives here, and I like that. I wonder for like other people who are like our cousins and other people who aren't as plugged in, if they're watching like, but normally in television shows, I kind of know what's going on. But these Marvel shows are all, and Star Wars has been doing this too with Ahsoka and Mandalorian with season 2 specifically with like what his ancestry is. They're all answering the question of, who am I? They're all telling the story of a hero who doesn't even know who they are, why they have their powers, and they have some kind of like amnesia, and they have to like gradually reveal to themselves who they are. And that's an interesting story, but every story,
it sucks because I don't want to fault Agatha for that, because it works really well with Agatha, and I would have rather had it in Agatha than other things that I saw.
It's worth pointing out that like watching a show like this, it's a different experience as far as like the immediate gratification. Once the credits roll on a given episode, right, like you're not getting a complete story. As if it were, I don't know, Mandalorian season 1, or maybe even Falcon
Law and
Soldier
Order,
or something.
Special Victims.
Yeah, and so it does require
thank
a different type of patience. It requires you to immediately go to YouTube and watch every video we put out about the show, maybe
That is
twice,
true. That is
probably maybe 3 times, if we're being honest.
wow, yeah.
Put it on the loop function
right.
on YouTube real quick.
Evan, do you have any fun comments we should address?
Oh, I was just gonna say that if you want to watch television where every episode is good, you can just drop in. It's a great episode of anything. Watch Bluey.
Oh, yes.
He's not wrong.
Also, those are like 12-minute episodes?
Yeah.
12-minute
They're
episodes?
very quick. They're missing a lot of
What's
episodes
the
on
mom's-
Disney
what's the
Plus.
mom's name?
Bingo?
Bluey? What if I
Bingo.
told? Did you know that Bingo turned in Bluey to get a copy of the Darkhold? Thank you for the assist on that.
I don't want to insist on that.
Also,
I don't want to insist on that.
Also, that's a younger sibling turning in their older sibling.
I asked you for the
They would
mom's
do it.
name.
They
I
would do it
thought you
before
were
the
just asking for
parent
any of their names.
No.
Mom's name is
I think that
Chili.
Mom and Dad are just called
Bandit.
Mom and
No,
Dad.
No,
Chili,
Bandit.
Bandit and Chili.
Bandit.
All right,
What
let's
if I
move
told you
on.
that
Let's move
Bandit
on.
turned in- okay.
God,
Well,
That'd be crazy if the little
Plus,
sister turned into
also,
Bluey.
Brandon, it would be the dog hold.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
And you're going to have to travel the bitches road. to
Okay,
get
you
that.
know what?
Yeah.
Now, Nicholas Scratch, the name stays the same.
how do you get an anagram out of Woofagore?
Stop him. Someone stop him while he's ahead. Stop him while he's ahead. Write that down, Zach. Write that down.
The Scarlet Bitch, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Well, these witches all have a lot of interest.
I'm sorry, that's so fucking stupid.
These witches all have a lot of interesting things going on in these first trials, and Jessica's going to do a deep dive into them further in an upcoming video. But to highlight one of them, how do we think Alice's comment about, Alice's Wu's mother's comment about all the women in our family are cursed and forcing her daughter to get a tattoo, how's that going to come back into play? That was like an interesting sequence for me, mainly because she's like, I just felt your grandmother die, her mother, right? In theory, she lived to a decent age, it seems like, and everyone dies at some point.
How do you know her age?
I don't. Well, I'm just doing a little basic math.
Yeah, she has
at least 20 years old, maybe 18 years older than her mother. But it's like, and then her mom immediately like takes a swig out of a bottle. Is that a potion? Is that just alcohol? It's like the fear of like family death driving this Lorna Wu to drink, and like that's her own like downfall, or is she like trying to drink a potion to like save herself?
I love that, only in that we have not
Is
heard
the
that
curse
many
real?
of these other characters like motivations for initially becoming witches. And I like this idea that it's like, well, it's not like a career you choose.
Yeah.
You were chosen for it, and that like not all people like that.
Yeah.
That
Alice
they've
Wu was
been
like
chosen for
branded
that,
by
right?
her mother at a young age, whether or not she wanted that tattoo or not. You know, it like happened. Is it like an actual curse, or is this kind of some weird, self-inflicted curse the family's created for itself, scaring all the women into thinking they're cursed?
That'd be great. Well, they could still. That's the thing, is she's still looked at as a witch, so it's like it's a real thing. They have some sort of something in their family. Also, I think the biggest to add on to it is like, okay, so she's the protection witch, and Joe Locke said in an interview the music episode is the 4th episode, which I think is her episode because every piece of trailer that's in that scene has her with like a demon above her.
The recording studio,
the recording
Suspiria
studio,
looking
yeah.
set. Yeah.
And then also her mom is a cool lady, so it makes sense that
very
would
cool
be
lady.
her.
Yeah, Stevie Nicks.
That's a cool mom.
But it definitely seems like it's forced upon them. She has this. She doesn't even want to be a witch 100%, but it's like she has to do it. So it is generational. It has to be.
I mean, I think all kids rarely outlive their parents. I think when your parent dies, I think we're all naturally afraid of death. So this kind of hit me as weird when I first saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, when your parent dies, you do have a newfound mortality that it's your generation's turn. But I think specifically they have some kind of curse where maybe these witches would live forever if not for this specific entity that's hunting them. And so I was reminded of like It Follows, and that there's a shapeshifter that just kind of chases them, or just Final Destination, death itself, the Grim Reaper, whatever it is. But I think in this case, there's some kind of demon that chases them, and then otherwise these women would live forever until that demon catches up with them through whatever is happening in their life and just wears them down, and then it gets them. So I think that's what Lorna Wu, the singer, was so afraid of. And she's like, gosh, my mom was better at running than any woman in our family, and it finally caught her, and I'm not good at running. And maybe that's why she's like a traveling musician, is she's trying to stay on the road and trying to move. And so she's worried now it's gonna catch her, and she's worried about her daughter because her daughter doesn't maybe want to flee or can't, and that's why that protection spell. So I think it's like this monster is catching up with
There's
her.
also a nice metaphor there. Like people talk about they have their demons, right? Like maybe in this case it's a literal demon, but also that's often addition can be called
The demon in a bottle.
right? Like demon in a bottle, right? And she's taking a swig of something. Maybe for most like 1970s rock stars, their demon would be a substance abuse issue, right?
Yeah.
But here maybe the substance is like to avoid the demon or protection from the demon, or who knows. That would be a fun kind of switch up of that normal trope.
My demon's those little candy pumpkins they have.
Ew, gross, ew, poopy,
candy corns are gross,
disgusting.
but those little marzipan
Dookie.
pumpkins,
That would going back to what a sane person fucking said. You're insane. And that's the only time I'm gonna give you that. No, I think that what I do really like about the script is I think that they're trying to make it seem like, oh, anyone can be a witch, and to the degree of the fact of like things like that incorporated in mundane human life is still seen as a curse, and like witchcraft wise, it's like, yeah, this is something that follows your generational family. And that's what I was kind of feeling with the midwife, the fact that Jen might be a doctor or a nurse of her time, because I'm like, oh yeah, during that time she's just bringing potions that heal people, but men in medicine are like, hey, get that out of here.
Are you washing your hands,
So,
idiots? How
Dig
dare
in
you.
there
You
immediately.
need the outer spirits to go into the body.
But it,
Wipe some feces on your hand, good sir, before you do that surgery.
I think they basically like took a whiteboard and took like normal things like families that do feel like we're cursed and things
Yeah.
like this and been like, let's translate it for the MCU and heighten it to a degree that's like, oh, look at how crazy it is. And that's what we should really be going in with these other people, like even Lilia's story. I'm trying to understand how like this woman that's 450-year-old Sicilian witch, and just kind of, they even say in interviews, she's just like kooky. I'm like, but what does that translate to being a witch? How
Well,
does those
why-
visions actually
And
affect
why-
her?
Get some blue chip stocks. Just let it just hang out.
And like we talked about that with Bucky. Yeah. Why do we think we see Lilia's like mentor character there standing at the table? She's all like decomposing and kind of dead, but then there's another figure behind her, right? That kind of looks like the Salem 7 ring wraith looking kind of hooded.
I mean, it has
character,
like
right?
the hood. It has a skull,
It has a skull
face. I mean,
face.
in Marvel Comics, that's very death.
Death.
Yeah.
The physical embodiment of
Lady
death.
death.
And like Lilia saying, like they're dead, they're all dead, right? I love the mention of like, yeah, there was a plague in the 16. I mean, the Black Plague went on for centuries, from like the 1300s, like well into the 1700s. So like, but there was a hot little plague in Italy in like the 1600s. Like maybe this show's insinuating that whoever that mentor was created this plague because they were like still alive, right? Even though they were
If someone
like,
created the damn plague.
yeah, like they brought the plague to the town, or
Well,
they're held responsible.
That,
for
well, that
it
was
as
often
witches.
as the plague was going through Europe, right? People would blame it on witches,
Yeah.
right? Like often because they
We don't
didn't
know it
understand-
wasn't them.
Well, that's
Okay.
We
true.
know it was the bacterium in the fleas, right?
Yeah.
Who?
Witches.
But they were witches.
The witches put it in the fleas.
The witches put it in the
like,
fleas.
like Bluey?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think I kind of wonder why 450-year-olds, like they clearly wanted Lilia Calderu to come from the Italian Renaissance.
Yeah.
And really
Yeah, yeah.
the Italian Renaissance was winding down at that point.
Sure,
like the
it was the
Renaissance
end of
had
it.
spread out to Northern Europe by then. But I think the idea was like when the Renaissance happened, it was a rebirth of a lot of the older ideas from the classical era that had died out because of the church taking over Europe and imposing a specific ideology that was anti-science in a lot of ways. So a lot of those scientific ideas and those mythological themes started to come back into art, into thinking, into literature. And I think Lilia Calderu might be like a character who survived those bubonic plagues and just always had that knowledge and that foresight. And she could be kind of this like Nostradamus figure who is like has these visions of the future, and she's kind of linked with the past in that way. You kind of see the full timeline the way like God of Stories Loki does.
What if she's sick? What if she just like can't die, but she's also taken on like every sickness from that past?
Oh, she's been the sin eater of
Because it's
everything.
isn't that Angelina Jolie in Eternals? Give me the name. Give me
Thena?
Thena. Yeah, isn't that
Thena.
Thena was like, well, I guess she just like acquired whatever she was that she had. But I'm like, oh, someone that's just gonna exist that long throughout time and hasn't caught anything, not a single thing. I'm like, it must be something up there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Before we start moving into the audience Q&A section, I did want to ask, Sarah Hatch Jordan was asking, out of you personally, which witch are you guys most excited to explore the backstories and history of?
Oh God.
Which?
I genuinely think I'm doing a video on Saturday that comes out about Jennifer Kale, but I do think if you look at that episode and just like look around, you will learn everything. And I think I've gotten enough. I'm like, I actually genuinely looked into this.
Here we go.
What the fuck's that mean, bitch?
I mean, I'm ready for it. It means I'm ready for it. Here we go.
Here we go. But it's Lilia. I want to know why she is what she is, and how she is. Because it's like nothing is translating for me yet. And we've seen those scenes in the trailer of her and all of them as different cartoony witches. And I'm still like, what is she? What does she have? What's going on? How does this translate to like tarot?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it's Jennifer Kale. I just think the idea of being bound and what bound means is such an interesting question. Is she bound to this doctor? And where is this doctor now? Does he have her powers, or did he just like take them and not realize what they were and throw them away?
Can I throw out my theory?
Ooh, please.
Can
Sure.
I throw out my theory? What I think it is? I get deeper into this in my video. You can go back on Saturday. But I was watching it and I was like, oh, I think she's bound by the traumatic experience of what happened. Imagine if you get in a car accident and you don't want to drive a car again. It's like because that trauma really is deep rooted in you. And I think she bounded herself she's so terrified of what happened to her when she knew her spells, she knew her magic, and was like punished for that by that man. I think it's like a connected trauma bond that actually bounded her spirit, and she's the only person like Agatha that has to claw her way out and get out of it. Because I don't think this guy's a magician. I don't think he's powerful. I think he's just a man in power.
Well, and if we're using the Wizard of Oz metaphor, right? Like
Is
the
it
Cowardly
the
Lion
Lion?
had the courage the whole time, right?
I haven't finished it.
Boy, you spoiled the drug movie.
I do like the idea that like all of these witches don't need any external thing to unleash themselves. The journey of going down the road will allow them to fully embody. Like, yeah, I totally agree. Jennifer Kale will unbind herself somehow. Maybe that all leads to Agatha doing a resuck of everybody else.
Inside them the whole time, like a Digimon.
Yeah.
Like a Digimon.
Yeah.
Who knows Digimon? That was
No,
the
we are a Pokemon house. We are a Pokemon
I'm
and a
there.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
I'm there with you, Eric. I'm there with you.
This is
Evan
the
knows what I'm
Yu-Gi-Oh
talking
house.
about.
How dare
Whatever.
you?
Get out of here. Go hide. Go hide.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Cower yourselves.
All right, so there's a lot of audience questions, a lot of people asking similar questions, trying to highlight usernames where I can. Thank you guys so much. I love seeing all the theories. Eli Beasley and Joaquin Ybarra on YouTube sending in super chats, celebrating all the hosts. Thank you so much. Jeremiah Torres and Loki Lair, some of the people asking questions about, is Mrs. Hart really dead? Do we... Jeremiah is saying specifically, if so, do you think she'll come back with powers? With witch powers? Or, as many other people have speculated, and Loki Lair is saying, when will Rio come? Or will Rio come and replace her role in this coven, right?
Oh, and also Rio is an actual green witch.
Yeah.
I think Rio's gonna take her spot. Because
there's that shot of Trevor coming out of the ground, right?
Yeah, and also we don't see those two in the same.
I think it's
we don't
more
see them
powerful to have Mrs. Davis actually be dead and like not come back because her husband is still alive, right?
No, he's dead.
He did die.
He had died since the events of WandaVision.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So like I think for it to have impact, I think it's pretty powerful if she's dead and like doesn't come back.
But I think we'll see her again in an episode that flashes back to the events of episode 1, but we just see what Agatha was doing from the perspective of everyone else in Westview. And we'll see it from Joe Locke's character's perspective, I imagine, and it'll all be set just on that neighborhood street.
Right.
Like Herb's front yard, Dottie's front yard, maybe Dottie's like library in their house, or just her bookcase, and that conversation will happen there. And then I think we'll see... I don't think Sharon actually ran over the kid. I think she did. I think she bumped into him, and then that's what Agatha will see as her running into him.
you think she physically bumped into him?
I think she,
Or like
she
a
just
shopping
shoulder
cart or
checked.
something like that.
Look, if she shoulder checked, it's gonna my
just
hallucination.
bad.
I'm back.
She was playing with Matchbox cars in her backyard. And she had a little ramp set up, and one flew off and hit the team.
We got some sweet air
That's
on that
so
jump.
funny.
Yeah, on that jump.
Or maybe she's just on her bike and then she almost bumped into him. She goes, sorry, teen.
My favorite part is that it's actually gonna be him like jumping the fence, and she's gonna punch him in the face because he's gonna run through the flowers.
Yeah, Castle Doctor.
Well, and real quick, has it been canonically established if you die on the Witch's Road, are you dead not on the Witch's Road?
We don't.
You're
I don't
not
think
like
we know yet.
in the Matrix. Like that's your physical body goes into the road. So I would imagine there's no physical body that comes
Okay.
out.
It's
gonna
But
be
the
the
rules
plane,
of reality are warped there.
There's still a scene in the trailer that has Jennifer Kale coming out of the ground eventually in the pink dress around Westview. It might also just be an illusion. I keep going back to this, and some people have been like, Jessica, don't spoil it. And I'm like, it's not a spoiler. It might be just a vision. It's just what we saw from the trailer.
Speculating on trailer imagery that Marvel put out there is not spoiling it.
No. Another one, Evan, please.
Hey, I know on the show today we've said that the big bad is female friendship, but Tony on YouTube asking, do you think the big bad will be revealed to be Agatha's son or Billy/Teen? What do we think?
If there is a big, you're saying if there is a big bad,
If there is a big bad.
could it be Billy/Teen? I mean, I would love it to be like Dottie, like Sarah Proctor, in some
fun.
weird way of like, because I love the idea. We've been talking about this. You put this in the breakdown too. That like, Westview is like a hellmouth, and it's drawn these powerful witches. Like, why were Lilia Calderon and Alice Wu and all of them, Jennifer Kale? Why were they within 3 miles of Westview? Like, what brought them here? Why specifically here? And if it is some weird thing where it's like, yeah, Sarah Proctor has been the main witch controlling this area for a long time. She got caught up in the hex. She's pissed. And now she's like, I'm going to kill off a few extra witches while I'm at it. And I blame Agatha for most of this. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the WandaVision Westview Hellmouth theory.
Yeah.
That the town of Westview is like over a vortex of like dark energy that comes from hell. Now, I think that, obviously the show is saying that they're witches or witchy people are in all 3 mile radii that exist everywhere, but these are like high profile witches. Lilia Calderu, 450 years old, divination expert, the high priestess of Jennifer Kale, Lorna Wu's daughter is right there, and then like Agatha Harkness just happens to be there. Vision picks this plot for the future Scarlet Witch to be there. Yes, this is like convenient writing, they're just writing the world to be this way. I get it.
Actor Ralph Boner hangs out there.
Yeah, he flees there to flee witness protection custody.
His DMZ.
Yeah, but to answer the question, I don't think Jack Schaefer really digs the idea of a surprise big bad. That's just not the way she likes to structure her stories. I think like Agatha was there from the beginning of WandaVision, and I think really Agnes wasn't the villain of that show. It was like Wanda's own grief. And I think in this case, it's going to be like Agatha's own choices. Yeah. The selfishness will be the villain of the show,
I think that'll be the villain of the show, but I think Marvel's still going to interject for the post-credit villain of the show. You know what I'm saying? Oh, sure. They're going to reveal it's going to be like, I don't think it's going to be Mephisto.
Obadiah Stane.
But yeah, I think...
Remember me, Tony?
They're still going to...
You should have finished the job.
They're going to throw it in there in that post-credit.
You built this antidote with a sink of scraps!
Shut up, my boy.
It's just honey, you idiot.
Well, you got some Burger King burgers, Tony? I'm trying to do my Jeff Bridges. I can't do it.
Famous Joe's Pizza. Famous Joe's. Slice. Technology.
Get away from me.
So will there be a post-credit scene?
Yeah.
Would it be Sacha Baron Cohen shows up in a post-credit scene as Mephisto? I don't know if that makes me like this show more. Mm-hmm. I kind of just like the idea of these women figuring out what they did to each other.
Biggest enemy. Sure.
Biggest enemy.
Quick yes or no. Here we Joaquin Ybarra asking, teen Billy died in an Eastview car accident. Nick took over the body. Mephisto cast the sigil. Mephisto is coming. Yes, no. What do we think?
His magic would be better, right? They
wouldn't need it. Jack Schaefer said that it was kind of an immature spell. It's a little rough around the edges.
Now is he doing that to throw them off the scent so they don't suspect him?
If he's an agent of Mephisto, there could be a million agents that are bad.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it could be a Mephisto underling that is actually executing the sigil.
He's like, I'm trying.
Yeah, I think she would have had to make a deal with someone to get that exchange. And so it would be with Mephisto, with Chthon, with Death, with some other kind of like spectral figure. So yeah, I don't know if it would be with Mephisto. I think Mephisto was thrown in here for now, and then I think the sigil is something drawn by someone who like is not a witch. I think it was just or someone who is not an experienced witch, because it's supposed to be hand scratch. Sans serif is how Jack Schaefer described it.
Keenan claims, and lots of people like Zip Zero on Twitch asking, do we think they're just going to retcon Billy to be Wanda's son from another universe who lost his mom? Now he's here to walk the witch's road to get his heart's desire, Wanda, back to life.
I think he's from this universe.
Yeah.
I think he's Billy Kaplan from Eastview in this universe, and I think I don't think he's going to be either of their son, like Wanda or Agatha. But Billy Kaplan, when we meet him, is Rebecca Kaplan and Jeff Kaplan's son, and there's just like some kind of like, universal events that imply that he has some kind of spiritual essence of Billy Maximoff from this other universe. But like, I think that's what they're gonna do. I don't think they're gonna make him Agatha's son, genealogically.
And no more multiverse in this show. I doubt we talk about multiverses.
I agree.
Right?
I don't need it.
We're already dealing with witches' roads and magic and spiritual realms and all this kind of stuff. We don't need also multiverses. Right?
I think Wanda 616 can't ever get Vision, doesn't get to keep Vision, and doesn't get her kids. Yeah, like, that's what keeps this Wanda different than all the other ones and makes her angry.
This one's not a mother; she's a monster.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? Brandon said that. I'm just quoting what he said.
I would look at the tape and see who said it.
Nah, you can't rewind on a live stream, I think.
You can't. You have to.
I really like this question from Revenge of the Mook on Twitch asking, do you think the people of Westview see Agatha as a hero because she saved them from Wanda's hex? And YouTube super chatters Tia Marillion and Patrick Estes also asking, do we think the road is influenced by Wanda's hex at all? Or do we think that Agatha's having some lingering memory issues from her time, being under for 3 years?
Did some of them got out of the hex, right? Before Wanda started closing it when her kids started dying at the end, the finale of WandaVision? Because I was like, well, I don't think a lot of people know that Agatha was fighting Wanda. right? Because a lot of them, she was like, "Go, run,"
Well, it
and then
seems like-
the children were like, "Oh, I'm dying," and she was like, "Oh, never mind, I gotta close the."
When
It
they
seems
weren't
like you were
frozen.
under
Yeah, they
the
were.
hex. You're not in control, but you were like watching John Malkovich style. You could kind of see what was happening.
But she freed them. It was the finale. She freed them.
Right,
that was
right.
the part.
She frees them, but I don't know. Like while they're under the hex, Agatha and Wanda are fighting in town. You're like, I'm made to buy groceries right now.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's
and you
the part
look
she-
up and you see these two witches fighting. I don't know if they're like.
She released them like completely.
Yeah.
They were out of the spell, but in the hex still.
Right.
And then they ran to the gate.
Oh, that's right.
And that's why I was like, I think some got out, but I don't think all of them got out.
and I don't think. Yeah.
This
I don't
was
think
also
they
like
see-
3 years ago, so you guys owe us a little bit
They
of time.
probably
to
see
think
like
about this.
Monica Rambeau, and they're like, that lady, she took a bullet.
Yeah, that's
She's on our
interesting. Would
side.
they? Because they're not even bringing it. If you did remember Agatha and her fighting, you would bring it up in the first episode, right?
Right,
You wouldn't
yeah.
have just been like, "We bought you groceries and let you stay in this person's house." And
Well, maybe
be
the
mean to
hex
us.
wanted to put her under also like affected up, so they just see Agnes. They're not just like, who's this?
No, I think
Wasn't
they
that
see
the lady
her.
flying downtown?
No,
last
I
week?
think they just view her. I don't think they saw. The
Yeah, I
aerial
don't think they
battle.
did either.
I think what happened was like they just know that Wanda did this to them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're suspicious of all witches, as like populations tend to be, and now they just see this crazy cat lady who's wandering through this crazy rabbit lady,
Sometimes
who's
naked.
sometimes naked, and they're just like, it's like the crazy cat lady in The Simpsons in Springfield who just shows up there in catsuit. That's how they view Agatha.
And arguably, to agree with that, she did look completely different when she made her back into the nosy neighbor from the crazy
Right.
black-fingered witch she was
Yeah.
fighting in the sky. Her hair was like completely down and ragged. She was in like a giant drape,
Yeah.
and then she immediately went to like a checkered black and white dress. So it's like she looks completely different.
And like from the way Sharon Davis interacted with her, right? Wasn't scared. It was just
No.
as purely as a neighbor.
They all feel
Not
bad
even
for
as like you're a good witch.
bad for her.
I should be worried about going to a party with you. It was just like, sure, you're my neighbor,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think the reason the Witch's Road might parallel the structure of WandaVision is because Jack Schaefer did both, and she's like, hey, people like these TV reference shit that we do. But I think part of it, maybe for Wanda thematically, could be like, just there's some kind of natural path that all witches take, and then this is the road that they lay for themselves. So I like the idea of the Witch's Road for Agatha is just kind of forming in front of her as like this coven is going down the road, and for Wanda instinctively, like she was like working her way through her own witch's road by forming this hex instead of all through the sitcoms.
Yeah.
I think the people of Eastview see Wanda as a hero because they hate Westview. And they're like, finally, someone put those Westview.
They said our football
assholes
team
in
will
their place.
perspire.
Go Blue Devils!
Yeah.
Shelbyville.
We're going to start
Shelbyville.
winding down here so we can keep these answers very, very tight
Right.
as we run through some of the last super chats and some of the Twitch questions. Runaway Rick saying Rio's Darkhold and Agatha's trial. That feels right. Rio could probably be her trial. Jeremiah Torres,
I
yes,
said
no
that,
answer.
yeah.
Do you think we see Speed at all in the show?
No.
No.
No speed.
No Speed.
The
Sorry.
We see speed around the office.
Robbie Roberts asking, what if they origin swap and make Nicholas scratch a piece of Mephisto's soul trying to be free by reaching the end of the Witch's Road?
Y'all want Mephisto
Oh,
so
maybe.
bad.
I just want
Yeah.
to know how many
Soul.
pieces of his soul. We need to put it as a finite number. We can't just say this is another piece of his soul. I want like Horcrux
Yeah.
finite
Yeah.
quality.
There's
to pieces
29
of his
pieces of the soul. Yeah.
soul. Ooh, now
All
there's
right.
a universe.
Tony Michael Samaripa asking, would any of these ancient witches know of Cynthia Von Doom and her fate of being trapped in Mephisto's realm?
Aye.
Too a little too
like-
broad, maybe, but they could know.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know if the 616 has a Latveria. They've never
Yeah.
said Latveria. So
they've
we
had
don't
so
know
many
if they have a Von
opportunities to-
Doom family. Maybe they have. Maybe in the 616, the Von Dooms are like the Romanovs, and they got killed off
yeah.
a couple generations ago, and they don't know if there's any Von
there's-
Dooms still alive.
I'll also say, right, like the way Jennifer Kale talks to Teen, right? They say she traded her son. I do like that it's like none of these
They don't
witches
know.
have first person experience, right? Like they talk and they know the rumors and the stuff like
Yeah.
that. But like even if they'd heard rumors of whatever, right? Like none of them have direct evidence. per se.
Yeah.
Speaking to that too, even though they are great witches, like they are, as Agatha says, they're reject witches. Like there's a reason they're not in covens right now. One doesn't have her powers, one's a little kooky, and one doesn't even want to be a witch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, but I love that the world that they live in, these witches are grounded to the degree of like, I only know what I've seen. I might be 500 years old, but I only know what I've seen. I don't know what happens in a different universe. Though Lilia might be able to see like a different family.
Right.
Like, be able to see something she's just not talking about
true.
it. She doesn't care.
It is worth noting that Mephisto is more of like a Fantastic Four Silver Surfer villain. Like he was introduced as a Silver Surfer number 3. He was like a cosmic villain. He had this relationship with like Reed Richards and with Cynthia Von Doom and Doctor Doom. And then when they introduced Ghost Rider, they made Mephisto part of that origin story. But he was like, and then West Coast Avengers, it was like a Scarlet Witch thing. But it was like he's very much involved with like the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom.
So is Agatha. I mean, she's like a very big role there. I did like that line that Agatha had to Jennifer where she was like, I let you do your thing. Like, I let you keep getting stronger. That was like a very interesting line towards the end when she was kind of like trying to pep her up a little bit. Like, you can do this. She was like, I knew what you were up to. I could tell you were a powerful witch, and I never got in your way.
This is more,
which was like a very interesting line.
I loved it because it. Oh no, keep going.
No, just because it kind of shows that like these witches are aware of each other, especially when they gain power. And everyone had heard of Agatha because she'd been around for a long time, but she was like keeping tabs on other witches and making sure they weren't getting too powerful for her.
I love that. I should have said that was my favorite part because I really love that scene because not only is it like, come on,
it's one of the only honest lines we've heard from Agatha.
That and it's such girl power of like they might take away your power, but they're never gonna take away your knowledge, girl. And then like again for women in medicine, I was like, yeah, she was probably helping other women. She was probably like helping all women, and Agatha was like, keep going at it.
All right, last 2 questions here. Whiskey Bravo asking, does episodes 1 through 3 make you question the meaning of the title? Maybe Agatha knows what's going on, but wants to use it to her advantage, keeping quiet so far. And the Gamer MJ, kind of off of that, asking, if you had to pick a favorite episode so far out of the 3, what would it be?
Out of the 3, geez,
I loved episode 1 just because I love Mayor of Easttown and all the references. But I think the reason it's called Agatha All Along is like we're gonna learn that like the villain of this was Agatha all along in the same way that it was in episode 7 of WandaVision, and the choices she's made, like her mistakes and her selfishness and her ego was like the villain of this all along.
Yeah, I lean that way. I'll say I think I liked episode 3 the best, just pure recency bias.
Yeah, it was good. I liked episode 2, which Jack Schaefer kind of described the first 2 episodes as 2 pilots. Where like the first episode was like a fake pilot, and then the really gets into it in episode 2, which I really enjoyed, like kind of getting all the witches together, and that was very entertaining. I enjoyed that. But I would like to reveal at the end that Agatha has been playing us, the audience, too, and is in more control than she lets on. But that might be too much going on. What about
She's
you?
just like Allie's mom. She was actually.
I killed Lorna Wu.
I killed Lorna Wu. No, I like this episode the most. The second episode's very funny, but this one was very scary. And I was like, ooh,
creepy.
I like this. That her mom screaming, "I can't protect you!" I was like, okay, damn. I was like, okay,
Go
I
off,
got
Mom.
it. Go off, mom. Get it.
We've all been there. Was that the bat? No.
No,
Okay, what's that?
I want the bat to catch
Was
it.
that the bat?
Why do we get you, bat?
Do they know that there's a bat in the office yet?
We know.
Well, now you know.
As we wrap up here on the after show, we're gonna do what we do on every after show. We gotta name a character in the form of a game who won the episode, and for this series, it's who was the HWIC? Who was the head witch in charge this episode? Which character impressed you the most? Who did you have the most fun with? For me, it was Agatha, baby. Agatha was
Did you do
my
Agatha
HWIC.
last week, too?
No, I did not. I did Lilia last week.
Oh, yours are backwards and weird.
Yeah, I know, they're backwards and weird. I thought Agatha was great, and I loved the whole Darkhold sequence was really well done by Catherine. Incredible.
Mine was the High Priestess, is Jennifer Kale. She grew balls.
I missed that part of the episode.
No,
Man.
she
That's
did
the
it.
magic
She
right
did
there.
it. She did it. She did the
Okay.
damn thing.
She did a great job. Eric?
Sharon Davis. Like, I mean, she went out. I like to say she went out on top, but she just won in this episode. I think she was just so great. She's the one who figured out it was wine and drank most of the wine.
Yeah, good on her.
Yeah, it's tough between Jennifer Kale and Sharon Davis. Yeah, only because we probably won't get to say her name again. Sharon Davis.
We can say it again next episode if we want. We could do an RIP every episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No more tears in heaven for Sharon Davis, folks. That's it for us today.
Is
Make
she
sure-
in heaven? Oh.
Ooh.
When you die on the witch's road, do you go to heaven?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I don't know how God feels about all that.
Your soul goes to Mephisto.
Yeah.
or
That would be
something.
so shitty for this poor woman, tricked to come on the witch's road just to go to hell.
You hit a teen with your car.
I just bumped him. That was
was in her mind. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel right here on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch where we do videos like this live. Make sure to follow at Breakroom on all our social channels, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, X, Twitch. We'll catch you next time. Latest, guys. Goodbye.